Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening. Welcome to the 14th of hopefully many episodes of Bardadvice, a D&D podcast, a D&D advice podcast, I guess, where I, Charles Chaz Yazik, the DM, the Bard, do my best to answer your questions surrounding the game of Dungeons and Dragons. I hope everyone is doing well. Sorry I didn't have live chat on. Hi, everyone. Hello, Pirate, River, Avram. What it do? Chris. Thank you for joining. So, oh, goodness gracious. I smashed the microphone immediately right out of the gate. So, anyone who doesn't know, right out of the gate, my song NOGL came out today. Now, I am aware that it is a little slow bro of me to put it out now, but I started working on it while the debacle was happening. And I also still feel like it should exist for posterity. So, how does the paladin protect against the heat of a firebolt? He turns up his AC. Thank you, Chris. So welcome to another episode, gang. Let's start things off with reminding everyone that you can send your questions to bardadvice@gmail.com. Please do so. It also looks like bardadvice if that's more helpful to remember. But send the stuff over there. Also, we've got merch over at manshorts.com. And if you have any interest in contributing to what I'm doing musically, you can do so via my PayPal, Cash App, or Venmo, which are all Yazik. So I didn't really have anything planned for Art Corner, per se. Well, before we get into that, I had a couple of other notes. Also, as always, big thanks to anybody who is doing like the memberships or any of the super chats are always, of course, helpful. Patrons, super appreciate that. If possible, if you're listening to this podcast and you've been enjoying it, please rate it on your respective platform. Particularly on Apple Podcasts, I've heard that those ratings do make a big difference in terms of the algorithm. So if you are listening on Apple and you're enjoying it, please rate it. Which body of water do you get bonuses to sail across? The proficiency. Oh boy, yeehaw. What else? So, I was thinking about maybe just running the NOGL here for anybody who hadn't heard it. So let me figure out what that's gonna look like. 'Cause I think that what I can do is just turn this on and then turn that on. Oh, yeah. I really didn't want to do this. The wizards forced my hand. And now, this moment will live forever in infamy. For posterity's sake.
Watsies out of pocket, they won't stop copping the profit till our eyes pop out of socket. Dropping that deposit is the only thing on the docket. Guess the billionaires are trying to get some fuel for their rockets. How obnoxious, this is a community. The wizards have triggered an attack of opportunity. Hasbro's bigger, thinking that they can operate with impunity. About to be some real nerd unity. Hit them with the critical. Y'all about to lose and it's pitiful. Your behavior is parasitical. Then to see a whole bunch of people who are smarter than you do what you do better than you and cheaper too. You should be concerned. These companies never learn. Always playing with fire, then complaining when they get burned. Acting like they could take a piece of what the creators earn. You conflated real players with your rate of return. It's never gonna work. We can see that y'all are clever jerks. Nothing more than a suit and a smirk. Polluting the earth by bringing drama into the game. Ever since you hit a billion, it just isn't the same. Undermonetized. What are you talking about? You've yet to take advantage of the benefit of the doubt. Somebody up in that tower needs to figure it out. Cause we could play TTRPGs with or without you. That's factual. Yeah, it's the Galactica actual. The plan isn't practically transactional. Fractionally chipping away at your bottom line. Hoping to find a sucker that's on the dotted line. But y'all done got the bard annoyed. I got them hard bars in me like a carcinoid. So hot the yard chart up, stand guard, avoid. I'm balling all over your block like it's Arkanoid. Now let this be a lesson. We don't mess with greed. I'm up at the front of an army. I've been blessed to lead. You see, we stress the enemy to address the need, and we compress till they either confess or concede, and y'all did both. Went to war for revenue growth, now you're looking like a paladin with a broke oath. At best you've been exposed. I repeat, don't throw rocks at the murder hobos. Don't, like, assume my position, bro. I'm not afraid of you. That's not the problem. It's infuriating for people. It's really sad, but it's not scary.
You got a company that essentially sells ideas, and it made you over $100 million last year. I mean, how much goddamn money do you need?
Now you've admitted you're the wrong ones, that at these shows you're committed to the long run. But you better know if you ever do something like this again, we'll just leave you, we got a lot of options. Admitted you're the wrong ones, that at these shows you're committed to the long run. But you better know if you ever do something like this again, we'll just leave you, we got a lot of options, no GL.
I mean, how much goddamn money do you need?
The thing that's different about a Verbo vacation home, you always have the whole place to yourself.
I was muted. So that was the song. Hopefully you enjoyed it if you hadn't heard it before. You can go check it out on my YouTube channel. It's also available anywhere you listen to music. So, yeah, sorry about that. I fixed it. So many mutes. I know, I did it. I'm back. Should be good, right? There's a bit of a delay here. I've got to see about getting into the nuts and bolts of that. So that was the art corner, I guess. Like I said, I feel like it just needed to exist for posterity, just so that it's there. So, you know, they know not to do it again. So anyway, rate it on Apple. What are these notes here? DMV. Oh my gosh, my mom and I had to go to the DMV today, and we accomplished nothing. It's like stepping through a portal in time in that place. It really is. It really is absolutely crazy. It's just like, you know. Also, Rigsby, the guy who plays Waylon on the show, his older brother, Hustine, Justin, but we've always called him Hustine, called me randomly the other day because he was at a local junior high school for his kids, and one of the teachers there is a friend and fan of the channel. So they have an after-school D&D program that they started, and evidently when doing so, they hoped to get 10, 15, maybe 20 kids. They got 60, and they expect to get more. So I'm hoping to try and coordinate something with the rest of the crew and see about, you know, if we can get out there and do something, even if it's just to chill. You know, paying it forward, as it were. And also, how cool, man, because, like, dude, there's no shot we would have had a D&D club after school at my school. There's just no way. It's like, man, if you didn't play sports or you weren't in the band or something, there weren't any of those kind of things. Metal is king, but I like your flow. Thank you. Thank you, Moto Metal. I appreciate that. And then also I wanted to make a note quickly about cons. I just kind of want to put that out there. Like, we were talking about it with our agent today. I don't know if we may end up visiting or being a part of either like something like Gen Con or Dragon Con. If there are people out there that that know about these kind of events or have any kind of like organizational skills that I completely lack, definitely send an email over to bardadvice or just comment on a video or something, because I usually read those. Just shows how popular D&D has gotten. Yeah, no doubt, man. Like, Stranger Things, I think, changed it probably forever. I mean, I'm sure that there's still like people that are like, oh, well, that's not good. But I mean, the general stigma associated with it, I think, is since lifted. So, and it's a productive thing to be doing. I think it's good for your brain, you know? If you have a good DM too, that like creates good puzzles and like you really allow yourself to get into the role-playing aspect, it's you know, good for team building exercises. There's a lot of good stuff. I'm sure someone that's smarter than me could break it down psychologically as to why it's really good. So it's cool to see it's happening. Okay, so we have been rambling on for a little bit, opening in, and let's get into some questions because I've got some this week, starting with Abby, who joined us late. I think she joined late last week into the conversation and sent the question in, and I was thinking about it this week and looking into it, so we're going to get into that. So let me find my bearings here. So Abby asks, so I'm playing a druid barbarian. So cool. I'm very new to multiclassing, and I've seen that druid barbarian is a good multiclass to play. Do you agree? Yes. Also, how would you rule wild shaping while raging? So yeah, druid barb is a great multiclass. I think for obvious reasons, the benefit that comes with wild shaping and raging. So you asked about like how I would rule that. I think that not only is wild shaping, wild shape rage is not only allowed but encouraged, right? So I mean that would really be the main reason I think to go druid barb, is so that you could get the advantages of stuff like rage and unarmored defense, stacked with just the general bonuses that come from being able to wild shape. So I was looking into it, and I actually found this cool article that Skull Splitter Dice had published last year about barb druid or druid barb multiclassing. And it looks like, you know, for it to really kick in as far as the benefits go, it's like 3 levels. It's like one level of barb for the rage and unarmored defense, and then 2 levels of druid so you can get your wild shape, and then it's on. You can kind of just like do what you want to with it. Let's see. Oh, I've got a thing over here too. I'd love to play a custom character, Rogue Shadow. It's not really encouraged raw. You can't rage on wild shape. Really? Is that true? I thought you could rage while wild shape. I'll tell you, if it's not raw, I don't care. Like, that would seem to me to be the point of running druid, at least in 5e. Now, the cool thing about it in 3.5 is that in 3.5 druids get companions. So, yeah, you can. Okay. In 3.5 you get companions, so you're really 2 tanks. But I made a couple other notes about some of the other things that are advantageous, like multi-attack. So like when you're a barbarian, barbs get a second attack. Well, I guess everybody gets a second attack at 5th level now, right? Am I wrong about that? Is that like just like a 5e thing? Because it used to be, it used to depend on your BAB. I don't know if that's the case anymore. But even still, with multi-attack, with your second attack, multi-attack is not the same as a second attack. So if the animal that you're wild shaping into, which from what I can tell, the stuff that's coming out for playtest for 1, it looks like the future of the druid is going to be just kind of vague as to like how you want to, whether you're like, you know, you're by land, by sea, or by air, I guess. I don't know how that is going to affect stuff like multi-attacks. I guess it would just depend on the animal that you chose. But if they do it like that in sections, that's going to kind of mess things up, I guess. It's very fun to play. I've done this multi-class. It was very fun to play. I played 3.5. My PC was a 20 druid, 20 barb, 40 total levels. Holy crap. I live in proximity to Orlando. Never been to a con before, but if I heard that the Man Shorts crew were going to be there, I would be there in a second. Okay, cool. Yeah, I think we might try to do something. If it's a con, we're going to try to do something like relatively local. I don't know if I'm trying to go all the way to Indy, but I wouldn't. Atlanta's not that far for Dragon Con. And they probably do one closer. They probably do some local here, so. Anyway, all of that said, Abby, yeah, I think that a Druid Barb is a strong combo, depending on what you want to do with it. I think that there's a lot of different ways that you can do it. I would look into different ways that you can take advantage of it. But I would say, too, that, like, you know, whether or not something is a good multi-class, I think that, like, whether something is good is kind of subjective, right? Like, one of my favorite characters, and I bring him up a lot, is Studebaker Peppercorn, and he's like a liability. He's like not really... If I was building like a super team of D&D players, I would not put Studebaker on it because he's just kind of like a bag of cats. But I really like him, so I consider him a good character. So I would say I think that good is kind of subjective. I'd say that the most important thing is that you have fun with the character. So yeah, like stat-wise... mechanic-wise, Druid Barb is strong, yeah, if you're running it like you want to just run like Cocaine Bear. But I think what really makes it good is if you enjoy it. Yeah, a good multi-class is the one you enjoy playing. River says, I ran a Barbarian once. He brought metal to my DM's world. It was so bad it was good. Yeah. Yeah, I think that you can kind of have fun however you want to. But yeah, Druid Barbs are dope. Wildshape Rage. There's a lot to be said about that. So thank you for the question, Abby. Let's keep it moving. We've got another question. And the next question is from Charles, my namesake. So that's pretty cool. Let's see what he has to say. Charles asks, my fiance and I watch your videos weekly, and thanks you all made a typo. It's okay, we can keep moving. She now joins me in my weekly D&D game. Oh, cool. Thanks to us. Well, you're welcome. That's great. My question to you is regarding loot. As a DM, do you have a loot list that you use? It's challenging to come up with meaningful magic items, and the players get tired of the random percentile rolls from the loot table in the DMG. Yeah, I can imagine. First of all, thanks for watching. Glad you enjoy the content. We'll keep making it. I made some notes here. A couple of places that I found that are different generators. Now, that's just one of my answers. I've got a couple of other notes here. But for starters, I would say you might try a knee-jerk easy answer is you might try other generators. So stuff that is not DMG. I found there's Roll for Fantasy is one. There's another one. It's Kassoon, I think. It's Kassoon. I was able to just on a casual Google search pull up two of those two, which look to be like pretty cool generators. Another note that I made is that maybe instead of loot is a complicated subject, Flint says, yeah. Yeah, there are a ton of loot tables online, but I was going to say that maybe the loot is not what you think it is in the sense of them getting like weapons or items. Maybe they're getting pieces of them. So that could be kind of cool. Like I didn't really think that completely through. I just kind of like threw it on as a note, but like I think that you could kind of massage something out of that mentally as to like how to make that work if they like were getting pieces of stuff instead of actual weapons, like individualizing the items I noted, because I've talked about that before, like personalizing the magic stuff. Maybe something like cursed items that could be uncursed. So like maybe an item that doesn't really necessarily have any magic properties, but then later it does get some. Let's see what some of the people in chat are saying about loot. Enjoy making my own loot. Loot has changed a lot. They wanted less magic items for 5e. Bean says for AD&D, there's there's the magic encyclopedia. Sometimes if you certain gear apart weapons your party is using to make the treasure in kind. Hello, Insanity. Welcome. Good evening. Cursed items, I think, is a cool one. Like if you had, I think that'd be like kind of a cool, easy thing where it's like, I don't know, it's like an oily handle, but then like something happens later in game that turns it into like a steel dagger or something. And then maybe they, What's wrong, you guys? Right, you can rage, but you can't concentrate or cast spells while raging. You have to rage before you wild shape. Yeah, and actually, rage is not considered a spell or concentration, particularly once you can do it as a bonus action. Usually run modules, so loot's 80-90% covered. Yeah, that's one of the problems with homebrew. Best loot is a loot when there's no bard in the party. Oh, that's fun. Yeah, you could do that. That's a cool thing. You could like maybe give them loot that isn't really helpful for them per se, but it's helpful to move the story along. So like maybe I don't know, maybe they find like some instruments that none of them can really use, but then they come across like people who lost their instruments or something. That's a really simple, rudimentary example, but that's, kind of pushing you in a direction for maybe some creative ways to get some more interesting loot stuff. A redemption arc for an intelligent item is a quest on its own. Yeah? Extra rage because of the oily handle, loss of advantage. Yeah, give the thief Switchblade always. The thief Snitchblade always tells when he's gonna steal. Yeah, rage is not a spell; it's a state of mind. Yeah, loot's tough. It's been quite a while since I've legitimately run a game, and most of my loot I always did like if it wasn't just random out of the randomizer, I would spend time trying to individualize, but that can get tedious, especially after like lots of looting and time. All right. Vox Machina and the Vestiges of Divergence. And D&D Wiki is really good for homebrew items, Anubis says. So that might be worth checking out, looking into. Yeah, so that's the short answer, I guess. Charles is, Roll for Fantasy, Kassoon, both of those seem to have to... Oh, and World Anvil has cool generators too, always. And then maybe just kind of approach it from a different angle as to what the loot is, right? So, like, maybe it becomes a side quest. Maybe the loot itself becomes the next part of the story. So thank you for the question. Moving right along, we're going to question 3. Moving right along. Bum, 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 bum. This one's from Felix. Felix asks, recently you mentioned that you're reading and watching One Piece. Oh, I am. I know you're an anime fan in general. What are some anime shows that you are currently watching or anticipating? Thanks for all the bard advice. Well, thank you, Felix, for the question. Talking anime. I made some notes about animes. If I'm being frank, I actually have not been watching much anime like in the last week or two because I've been reading manga. It's probably actually been a month or so now that I've been doing that, but yeah, I love One Piece. Obviously, I love Demon Slayer. That's a great, great show. Some other ones that I've watched in the last year, I've noted, or the last couple of months, really, Spy Family. That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime is a good one. Chainsaw Man has been really fun and crazy. And then the new one there's a new one I'm watching called High Card, and I can't find the manga for that. But I've been reading some manga. What manga? Let's see. I've got my little app program deal right here. I mean, at the moment, I'm going through One Piece, Chainsaw Man, Black Clover, Jujutsu Kaisen, just for the manga at the moment. But I mean, that's kind of enough, I guess, at the moment to read. And then really, I guess all I'm watching is like newer episodes of the new stuff about Chainsaw Man and then One Piece. Keeping current with One Piece. Waiting for Chainsaw Man and MHA dubs to happen for Hulu. Oh yeah, you watch dub? I feel bougie, like saying that I watch sub, but I prefer sub. One Piece, Demon King. Demon King. Is Demon King the one with Amos Voldegod? Dragon Prince, Dota, Overlord. Oh yeah, Overlord is fun. One Punch Man. I never really could get into One Punch Man. Well, I liked the first season, but not so much after that. Been rereading Jujika no Rokunin. I've not heard of that. Overlord. Yeah. I do enjoy Overlord. I should stay more on top of that. There's another one that I saw that Justin showed me recently within the last years called it's another isekai, but it's like this dude, like a jobless loser. Anybody know what I'm talking about? Somebody might know what I'm talking about. But he gets like reincarnated as a biwa, as a baby in like a fantasy world, and like starts all over. Mushoku Tensei, that's it. Thank you. Mushoku Tensei. That's the one. Jobless Reincarnation. That's the one. Oh man, chat's always so on top of it. It's really great, actually. It's kind of like having another brain. I see why streamers like to stream, because it's like you got a little hive mind there. It's better than Google. The fan service that was unbearable. Didn't finish the first episode. Recently ran through The Devil as a Part-Timer. There's a bunch of stuff I think that's good. I fell off of My Hero Academia. But, yeah, I want to make an anime really badly, but I can't draw. I'm surrounded by people who can. And I actually have a really cool idea for one. But I'm not going to talk about it because I feel like if I did, somebody might take it. Because I think it's a really cool idea for an anime. But maybe we'll talk about that another time. Maybe one day we'll go through like my idea for my manga / anime. I have two. But because it's me in general fashion of overcomplicating things, this is the way that I would want to produce it. I would want to write / draw, and I wouldn't, obviously someone else would, but I guess I would oversee the production of the English version that I would then want translated into Japanese and then performed in Japanese and then dubbed. That would be really fun. Classroom of the Elite. I've not seen it. Thank you, Walt. Thanks for joining. Write it up and get the people that can draw it. Yeah, I know. And AI art, I don't have enough focus to figure that stuff out. But I do have a buddy that's into that. And we're actually out, we've been talking about trying to figure out how to work out an AI graphic novel. I'm still been trying to figure out how to get that done. I've always just got so much that I'm doing. And then as a result, sometimes I can't get stuff done. House Husband, is that the new, is that a new anime? Is that the anime about the guy who was like a mobster or something and now he's a house husband? Soul Eater, yeah. There's an anime for that. She gives the most ridiculous descriptions for an anime. Oh, dude, yeah. That's the thing about anime that's so crazy. Is like out of context, even in context sometimes. You know what else I like about anime? And like I've noticed it, I guess, just like in Japanese storytelling in general, but specifically in anime, is like they're very direct and like, I don't know, I feel like in English there's a lot of just like silence and space for things to be assumed, and the Japanese seem to be like very direct in the way that they say things that like, I don't know, they just like say things that they're doing. Like, it's just like, I'm going over here now. And it's like, I don't know. It's hard to explain. Does that make sense? Like, they're kind of on the nose with the way that they, like, explain concepts. And they always kind of, like, go into depth. And just feels better. Just feels like stronger storytelling. Dude, yeah, we could all get to, that's what we should do. Let's make a Discord for this, and just like, we'll just make a group AI anime, a group AI manga, and then we'll have it and then we'll get it turned into an anime. Totally down. Only Necromancer, Lone Necromancer. Okay, I'll check it out. Speaking of which, I've got, I don't think you can see behind me. No, not really. I've been collecting the first issues of manga, because they just have it at Walmart now. It's just like a thing. I guess that they've got some deal with Shonen Jump, but I now have the first issue of Demon Slayer, My Hero, Chainsaw Man, and One Piece, because they just have them at Walmart, and they're like $8. Couldn't believe it. Can you call Chaz or something? I live in the Commonwealth and don't want to taint you with thoughts of the Commonwealth's king. Yeah, you can call me Chaz. That's fine. Charles is like my government name, and then Chaz is what most of my friends call me. Most of my family calls me Michael. And then a lot of the internet either calls me the DM or Yazik. And then at one point, years and years ago, when I was on YouTube, I was known as Charlie. So whatever, dude. I'll probably respond to it. Trigun has a new season coming soon, really? Oh, you know what else I've heard? I've heard that the new Bleach is crazy. I've actually seen some of the fighting sequences from the new Bleach, and it's pretty insane. Newer Bleach, I guess. Oh, I love Berserk. Oh, and Bakino. Just throw that out there to mention that I think that's one of the best animes of all time. Lad Russo might be... I mean, he's like top 5 villains for me, maybe ever. Chaz has been working longer than the new king. Yeah, dude, your boy's been grinding. So thanks for the question, Felix, about anime. I'm always down for and happy to talk about anime. But let's keep grinding through and see who else has got some questions. The next question, according to my list of names, is from Alex. And Alex asks, just finished watching your Airships of Nuada campaign. It was epic, by the way. Oh, thanks. Have you ever played or run a D&D campaign set at sea? Oh, yeah. I have never have, but am considering running a game with a Sea of Thieves feel to it. Oh, that sounds fun. Should I? Yes. Also, do I have to stat out ships? Well, I mean, depending on what you're playing, you might not have to stat out ships. I would recommend having stats for the ships. The good news is that I think that depending on the edition or the rule books that you have, a lot of the... there's, I'm sure, a book for that. In 3.5, the book you would use would be Stormwreck. They have all the... I mean, I'm sure that there are other books that have ship stats, but not like Stormwreck. Is there an equivalent in 5e? I don't actually know. Keep running into scary people. Well, don't do that. Plan on statting out ships, then never using the stats. Yeah, that's true too. It's unfortunate because you kind of gotta have them ready in the event of. You said that you're considering running, so I'm assuming you're a DM. Listen, the thing about the DM is like, you only have to do what you don't want to do on the fly. How's that for a soundbite? Because, you know, you can wing it if you have to. It's not, I don't think, going to be a situation where it's like, oh, no, I've got to... Oh, all right. See you, Pirate. Thanks for joining. As always, good to see you. We'll see you next time. Thanks for hanging out. But, yeah. Also, like, something like that with statting ships, it's 100% a thing that you wouldn't do, and then they would want to attack the ship. So... yeah, you don't necessarily have to do it yourself because, like I said in the books, Unearthed Arcana has a fair number of ship stats, William says. Robert says that there's ship stats in the DMG. So, yeah, probably between the DMG and UA, you can get the data you need. You don't necessarily have to build it out yourself, although that can be fun, too. Yeah, and yes, I have. So the first question was whether I've played a campaign at sea. I have both played and run campaigns at sea. And they're so fun. It's great. In particular, the cool thing about the sea that you know, I mean, obviously you can accomplish this anywhere, but the sea makes it extra fun and easy, is that, you know, you've got whatever they're dealing with as far as other ships, but then there's also, at any moment's notice, just a monster coming from the deep, which is a really, really cool thing to be able to pull out of. And then not to mention, you know, stuff that's happening above them, too, i.e. One Piece, where they go to Skypiea. Pathfinder 1E is a pirate adventure, Skulls and Shackles. When you have a story idea and outline as a DM and the party is like, we are pirates now. Yeah. I think it's fun. I think that there's, I think that a sea campaign lends itself to a lot. The same kind of fun freedom that like airships did. It's really less of like a setting or location thing and more of just the theme that comes along with being on a ship, whether that's in the air or the water, because it's just kind of like you're just going to explore and see where adventure takes you. So yeah, I would highly recommend and encourage you to play the pirate campaign. Some of the most fun I've ever had was both DMing and playing in pirate campaigns. And the cool thing too about a pirate campaign is that, like One Piece, you can take them around to different islands, because you've got like different countries or islands that are happening all at once. You know, I guess it depends on what the world looks like, but I can't imagine a scenario where playing a pirate campaign wouldn't be fun and rewarding. I would say go for it. It's remarkably concise and on point. Only prep the bits you don't want to improvise. Yeah, most definitely. Because like you're gonna have to deal with it if you don't plan. So, you know, and I'm also kind of a believer across the board in like, if it's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. So like, you know, of course it's annoying to build a stat block that's not used, but it's more annoying to not have a stat block and have to either just like legitimately improv it or like have everybody hold on for a few minutes while you like hurriedly throw one together, which you'll probably not be happy with because you've rushed it. So I would say have something prepared for stat blocks for ships, monsters, really anything you want to use. And then even if it's not used, you know, you can always force it on them. That's the thing too. That's just like, that's sometimes I hear that from DMs where they're like, oh man, yeah, like I set up this really cool town and then they like never went to the town. And it's like, make them fall through a portal. It's like, yeah, you don't want to, obviously blatant railroading can be annoying, but also like, don't be so helpless as DMs. You have the autonomy of you know, at least like what the scenario is as to how they can move forward. Also, Yggdrachill is such a cool username. Have we addressed that before? Because that is a good one. And Yggdrasil is actually a really fun board game that I should have brought up a couple of episodes ago when we were talking about board games. Can make for a really small sandbox to play in RP-wise. So many shenanigans on a pirate ship between ship-to-ship combats. Yeah, there's a lot to go on. There's a lot of legs on the sea. We'll make it sound like something of a challenge. What are they talking about? Invisible walls. I'm always missing stuff. The water's basically bone sand. Whoa, dude, that's cool. Oh, you know what, River? That reminds me of the Moon Knight. That's cool. Spooky Town, USA. That's what's going on with that thing. An ocean of bone dust? I don't think so, cowboy. No thanks. Oh, they didn't go to Awesome Town. Oh, look, the next town is Awesome Town. So, what were we just... What was this question? The pirate ships? Do it. Pirates? Yeah. Hey, how about this? Here's a good rule of thumb. If you can ever be pirates, do that. Do that. You'll really enjoy it. Thank you for the question. Let's keep it moving, because we got a question from Scott. And Scott asks, thoughts on the upcoming Dungeons and Dragons movie? Oh boy, let me take a sip of my drink. Okay. So, I think it looks good. Because it looks good, I am concerned if the... Here's the thing about D&D, and what I imagine went into the writing, production, and marketing of the film. With D&D, you have people who... First of all, I think something to keep in mind as we, the keepers of the game, as it were, I guess, like the people who have already been here. Something we need to remember is that this movie is going to introduce a lot of people to the game. A lot. A lot of people who have maybe been on the fence about it. A lot of people who maybe have not even heard of the game ever, somehow. I think that this movie is going to really inspire people to play it, in particularly young people. In particular, young people, I should say. I don't know how plugged in they are to all the stuff that's going on with the OGL, or if they care. But you know, these 60 kids that are in the after-school club at D&D at the junior high, like that's going to be the next generation of players. So that's going to be the audience that is probably their most valuable to quote unquote please. You have people who want to watch the movie for different reasons. There are people that are going to want to just like you have different people that play the game for different reasons, right? So there are some people that play the game because they want the mechanics of it, and they like to edgelord, and they like to murder hobo, and they just want to get in there and like DPR and just be a badass hero, and that's it. And then you have some people that are in there for like the RP aspect, and they don't really give a shit about the mechanics. They don't care if they win. They don't care if they look cool. They just want to, you know, they enjoy it as an experience. And there are people that's kind of a hybrid of both. And I think that we're going to see those kind of people go see the movie, and so different people will have different critiques of it for different reasons. I think that there will be some people will probably complain that it wasn't, you know, that there wasn't enough meat to it in terms of story or fighting or whatever. You know, some rules lawyers are probably going to be like, well, you know, although I don't know why they would be, because this is, I'm wondering if they're presenting it in such a way where it's like, it's just set in the fantasy world, or is it supposed to be a thing where like these people are playing, these are the D&D players, and then it's just we're seeing them in the fantasy realm? I don't know. First of all, I missed this. Thank you, Chris, for upping the membership and reminding everyone it's Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves on the 31st of this month. It's the last day of the month. Let me see what chat's been saying. I still think Wizards is going to show their true intentions with OGL after the movie. Yeah, that's probably true. Yeah, because the thing about the whole, like, putting the 5e SRD into Creative Commons is like... I mean, you didn't really have the authority to do that, but thanks, I guess, after the fact. But also, that has nothing to do with one, which is the future of their company anyway. So, something to keep in mind. Your channel is making you want to try out D&D for the first time. Well, you should do it. It's really fun. I'm really glad that I played all those years ago. And I wasn't really into the idea of playing anyway, but it's super fun. You should play. Highly encourage it. If you're looking to play, check out your friendly local gaming store. There's probably one relatively close to your area. You can probably just look for like a board game store or something, a hobby shop in the area. Alternatively, there's groups online and stuff. I'm sure you can find like subreddits or people even here in chat that probably know where to play or have a game. The movie doesn't need to be good. It just needs to be fun. No one should be expecting a prestige movie out of this. Yeah, and I agree with that, Flint. I think, listen, we don't have a good D&D movie. Now, Jeremy Irons is a gift to the world of acting, and he might have been the only good acting element of that entire film with the Wayne's brother and the kid from all of the Disney movies when we were kids. It's not very good. And then the follow-up movies are just way, I don't even think that I think that they're worse. So I think that the movie is going to be what it needs to be, which is a movie that is better than ones we've had before as the community, but also a fun kind of thing that can invite people in. And yeah, sure, they're going to piss off some raw rules lawyery people. They've already kind of been doing that anyway with stuff. So I'm sure that that's no real skin off their teeth. But more importantly, they're going to be, I think, introducing a bunch of people to a brand new world of Knights of Badassdom was a great D&D movie. Yeah, but you know what I mean. They have an opportunity here, I think, to create themselves a universe similar to what Marvel did. I think Nintendo's about to do that. I think the D&D has a chance for that. Or really Wizards in general. Because they could make Magic properties and stuff. It's just, the thing is, it's got to be good, and it's got to have input from the community. I would say that, like, once the movie comes out, if and when there are critiques about it, I think that the Wizards needs to take those seriously and not just, like, plow forward with 15 movies about characters that people really might not give a shit about. I just hope it's good enough. Yeah, I agree with that. I do too. But yeah, even though I agree with you, Flint, where it's like it just has to be fun, I think there are going to still be some people that are like, well. Of course, I think there's going to be a subset of people that are just going to be unhappy no matter what. I'm going to be watching it, I think, for, just for purposes of being in the loop and having a frame of reference for what it is and being able to judge it objectively and then talk about it. So, I mean, I'm probably going to go see it. And I'll be honest about it too. If it's trash, I'll tell everybody. I have no problem ripping movies, dude. Particularly since they've already kind of been a thorn in my paw about the OGL thing. So if the movie's trash, I will drag it. But if it's good, I'll be honest too. I think it's gonna be, I think it'll probably be some good stuff, some annoying stuff. I don't know why good writers go on strike for fantasy films. The interview and how they admitted that they emasculated Pine. Whoa. What? That sounds insane. I don't know if they're doing those things. D&D Movie Edition. Yeah. That's coming. Believe me, it's on the docket. But thank you for the question, Scott. Yeah, I think that we'll have to see. I'm going to look more into seeing if I can find more stuff about it and in between now and then, but we'll just have to see how it goes. Thanks for the question. Moving on, we got two more here before we wrap up things. The next question is from Michelle. And Michelle asks, if you could play out any of your Edition episodes as an actual long-form game, which one would it be? P.S. You can't say Florida. That's too obvious. Yeah, dude. If you told me that I could only ever play Florida Edition ever for the rest of my life, I think I could handle that. I did make a list of some other ones that I enjoy that I think that I would probably have fun with doing long form. I think conspiracy has a lot of legs and fun. Like that has a lot of space, I think, to be really fun. You could run some really cool stories with those. With the conspiracy thing. Also just because it's kind of vague, right? So it's like it could be anything. I put Wild West Edition down. I really like that. I'd say that would be, and actually since I've written it down, it's really making me want to play a long form like Sidewinder. You'd have to stop watching if it was only Florida Edition. Yeah, some people aren't too keen on it. Some people love it. For me, it's just like, it's just kind of felt like that my whole life growing up because of the Sunshine Law and just all of the insanity that goes on in here. Oh, 90s edition. Good call, River. Yeah, because not only nostalgia, but time travel. Because that's essentially time travel edition 90s. Florida's becoming a dystopian nightmare. I hate to tell you, but it's been one. And be careful, because you're not supposed to say things about the person that's in charge of this place. Actually, I need to make a TikTok about the fact that I need to let people know that I am not going to be talking about that person moving forward, because there's some legislation coming down the pipe where it's going to be like illegal to do that unless you register with the state and stuff. And like, I don't register for anything more than I have to. So we'll just have to figure out how to avoid that topic completely moving forward. Anime edition. I would definitely want to play that. That would be a real fun world to live in. And then wrestling. So which I don't even know like what like the storylines would be for wrestling. Like I'm sure that Jay would know, but I think that would be just a fun one to do, because I've seen like more pulling more. Well, I mean, it might get slapped by a First Amendment suit, but like, where does that appeal go? You know? That's the thing. I've heard a lot of people this week say to me like, "Oh, that would never happen." And it's like, would it though? Could it though? I guess we'll have to see. I guess we will have to see. Is there a type of ism that starts with disallowing criticism of the government? I don't know. I couldn't tell you. Yeah, well, that's my point. Is it definitely would be a Supreme Court case. So they would be the ones that would decide if that was allowed, and then, well, of course, then if that was allowed for us, then, thank God for D&D, allows you to not live in reality for a while, which is really nice. It's a place to kind of escape. Loose gun laws. I don't know if we have any gun laws here. I mean, like, short of like not being able to own military equipment, there's not a lot going on. Okay, so let's get into this last question, because I do know that sincerely, by the way, was my last time discussing that, because I'm not going to run the chance of going to jail. This last question is from Chris, because you can't have an episode of bardadvice without a Chris. And I actually got this one today, I think. So it's kind of a last minute one that I added just because I thought it was a cool question. So Chris asks, in my party, there is a new player who has a less than ideal build. Sounds like me. This results in a great many of his attacks missing. I have tried narrating your spell zooms by within inches of the creature, or the bandit seeing the light of your flame nimbly ducks under. However, for long encounters where 5 out of 7 misses, Or, yeah, it gets repetitive and I feel like it's almost insulting to the player. I have brought up if he'd like to switch for better optimization. That's nice of you. But he said he enjoys his character build. Yes, definitely sounds like me. What are some creative ways to spice up a character's missing or failed attacks? This is a cool question, an interesting question, and it's why I picked it to try and answer. Let's see. Maybe you give meaning to the misses. These are my notes. These are the notes that I had as to like somewhat of an answer. You give meaning to the misses. So maybe there's more to the fact that he just misses. Maybe like if he misses X amount of times, then that grants him some sort of a bonus. I mean, that seems maybe a little too generous, maybe, because especially like if his character is kind of built to miss, then it's kind of like you're rewarding him for missing, but have him accidentally get stronger. Yeah, that kind of would be cool. Sounds like a spellcaster, so intended consequences. Have the enemy laugh, taunt, and inadvertently give information the party needs. So, yeah, if he misses X amount of times, he gets advantage or something. That could kind of make it fun. Maybe add it into the lore where, like, every time he misses, then that attack or that energy is, like, stored somewhere that maybe could be released later if he wanted to do, like, a massive damage drop. That's something that could maybe make it fun for both of you. Let's see what chat is saying. That's the best part of my character. My group calls me 220 because that's all I'm rolling, 2s and 20s. Oh, man. Have the mist affect the area, environment, potential wall collapses, or tree falls which causes damage. Oh, that's a good call. That's an easier one, actually. That's an easier way to do it, is that maybe it's not necessarily just a miss as to like what the flavor is. Maybe it's interacting with the environment or affecting the environment, and thereby like affecting the game itself, or the party itself, rather. Give him an added trait that aren't necessarily combat based. Oh yeah, that could be kind of fun. Yeah, so like with kind of maybe combining those ideas somewhere, like missing. I like the idea of like missing meaning something, and I don't know precisely what that would be. It does seem a little maybe too generous and goofy to just like give him a bonus for missing. But if maybe like who was it that mentioned that? Greg said, give him an added trait that aren't necessarily combat based. So like, yeah, maybe the bonus doesn't have to do with combat. That could be fun. Fire attacks start to burn flammable things. Ice attacks create difficult, slippery terrain. Yeah, for sure. So depending on what his attack is, it directly affects the world around them. Have a karma trickster god visit him because he loves how hilariously unlucky he is, and he gives him some boon that's even funnier. Oh, that could be fun too. Yeah, also, like, maybe it could be a bad thing. It doesn't necessarily have to be a good thing. Maybe every time he misses, it adds a ticker to the clock of everybody else taking damage or something, right? So it's like, okay, well, every fifth miss, everybody else takes 3 damage. So then maybe maybe you use the rest of the party to push them into optimizing their character. Let's see. Specialized effect on next level up, boomerang effect. A miss fizzle empowers a cast +1 spell level the next spell. That's cool. Yeah, if he likes the challenge or fails. When he misses, roll a d20 on odds the spell bounces. Oh, that's fun too. Yeah, if the spell bounces, maybe either around to someone else or back to them. That could be bad. Unless it's terrible for the whole table, I think the player wanting to play under optimized is okay. Yeah, and I also will make a point too, Chris. Like, it sounds like maybe you have more of an issue with this than they do. Just as to like, you mentioned that you feel like it's kind of insulting. And not to be curt about it, but like, it sounds like this is more of your problem than theirs. So I think like on your end of spicing things up, like any of those things that we mentioned, I think would make it a little easier for you, because it sounds like they don't care. And I recognize that because I've totally been that guy. I'm always that guy that's just like, yeah, my character, I'm blind and like I can only fight if it's raining. And then like I run that. And sure, it can be annoying to the party, but yeah, I agree with that point. Like, unless the rest of the table is pissed or annoyed about it, I'd say that adding one of those little things like the misses mean something, or that there's a chance for something else to happen other than them just missing. I think those would be some pretty easy ways to do that. And I will say, and I will echo this because I've said this before. I think I said it last week, maybe the week before, but that's one of the things I'm really starting to love about this podcast and just the community in general, is that it's just kind of like a collective conversation about how we can all like enjoy our favorite game more. So, clip that. All his spell misses could be considered critical misses that hit a random friend or foe. So ironically, he always hits, but not always how he wants. Yeah, that's fun too. Yeah, because I think that like if it's currently not affecting the rest of the party negatively, this could be a method. If in fact it's what you really want ultimately, is like I mentioned, you could have those misses negatively affect the rest of the party, which would then incentivize them to incentivize person to either change their character or figure something out. TikTok, how long can we keep him over? Oh no, am I over? Well, I am over. I do like to run a little bit over because I don't know if anyone's noticed, but not every single one of them, but most of the podcast audio, the audio versions of the podcast are precisely 1 hour. And I'm able to accomplish that because in spite of the fact that I pause and I and hem and haw a lot and take sips of water and stuff, if I give myself like to an hour 10, an hour 15, that allows me to like cut it up so that there's still like a solid hour left. And I like it being a precise hour. So, one of the funniest characters someone ran in my game was a hobbit fighter with average strength and insane dex. Well, that does sound fun. Do an intimidate check after the miss to give disadvantage. Oh, that's true. That's another cool thing. Yeah. Maybe there's like maybe you could just like create a save that's associated with it. So like to the point of bad things happen, like maybe every 5 misses he takes damage. That might change his mind about whether he wants to re-optimize or at least adjust. Just be like, okay, cool. Well, every 5 misses, that's a d6 of damage. That could change their opinion. I feel guilty that the other players get a description of their actions. Where getting the same boring flavor text feels like I'm robbing him of the same experience. Yeah, I get that. I would say that, it is ultimately his choice, particularly since you offered the option, because like not a lot of DMs would do that. Yeah, I mean, I think that you just want them to have as fun as possible. It sounds like them failing is fun for them. So I think that if maybe you want to make it a little more fun for you, you can call their bluff on how fun failing is and stack their failure and just be like, cool. Every 5 misses, there's a chance that you get knocked prone. Something like that, I think, could, at a minimum, make it more interesting. At best, it might make them adjust so that they hit more. I can understand how this would bug a GM. It means having to limit encounters more to accommodate for the underpowered PC so the party doesn't get straight up murked. That's true. Yeah. But hey, also keep in mind, gang, a lot of there's responsibility on the party too. It's not all on Chris. Like in terms of accommodating for the underpowered PC, that's party maintenance shit too. Like keep your teammates in line. keep it. Like I said, it sounds like if it's not affecting the rest of the party and they don't notice or care or it doesn't bother them and they're not bringing it up, then you can either create a scenario where it does bother them and that forces them to, or they just, you know, put him in a situation where he almost dies and put it on them to save him. Like, let the party take some responsibility too. Because at the end of the day, like, you're just kind of like the ref. They're telling the story. So if they're running around with this underpowered guy and they're just kind of like letting that go on because they know that you won't kill him, maybe scare him a little. Maybe make them think that he's in peril. And then at a minimum, they'd be at least more involved in what's going on. Because it's just like, hey, this guy's not hitting. Because it also kind of doesn't make sense from a role play perspective too. Like if there was a person that like, I mean, do they what else do they do for the party? I mean, they contribute in other ways. Is that the bit? Is that they just miss a lot? I don't know. Everybody's so different, but could be a good situation for some party RP and character development too. Yeah, no doubt. Like I'm big about like letting people figure it out / fail / you know, forcing people into some sort of resolution. Sometimes when we missed, we would hit a teammate or NPC. Yeah. Played with that player, kind of not fun because as the wizard I was constantly buffing him just so they wouldn't be a complete liability in combat when you wanted to cast booms. Yeah. I get that. Wednesday game was supposed to be a stealth mission. Turn 3, the Ranger beelined it right for the BBEG. TPK'd them by turn 7. Damn. Nice. What if your player wants to be brave Sir Robin instead of Lancelot? Never could land a punch. Yeah, I think that there's a couple of different ways that you can go about it, Chris. I think that you're a good DM to be concerned about it. You know, you've clearly given them an out. They seem to enjoy the missing. So, I mean, if it's not hurting the party, you know, just deal, I guess. But if you want to change it, I think that those are maybe some suggestions that could help. Just some easy little switcheroos you can make. And then also, as always, I always tell the DMs this. Talk to the party. See what they say. You don't know. Maybe it's bugging the hell out of somebody else, too. And they just haven't said anything. It's a conversation worth having. Had a player like that, and the party convinced him to take buff spells to help the party in between missing his damage spells. Bard inspires singing Sir Miss-a-Lot. I like Sir Miss-a-Lot. That'd be fun. Well, I think we're getting to be winding down, gang. I can't believe that it's already been well over an hour. Well, not well over an hour, but pretty over an hour. I've got some editing to do. Oh, yeah, and you know what? I caught up on... I'm current on The Last of Us. I gotta be honest, these last 2 episodes have been kind of snooze town. And I never watched... Listen, I never played the games. I don't know what's going on with the story in terms of what I should expect. I have enjoyed the show as a whole so far, but I don't know about the last 2. The last 2 episodes seemed kind of boring. Maybe that's sacrilege. The game's better. Yeah, oh, I'm sure it is. And honestly, in the last 2 episodes, I got real vibes of like, oh, I wonder if the story is not all that great because this is a segment of the game where you're doing a lot of stuff as the player. Never cared for the games. By the time they released it, you were burnt out on zombies. If I'm honest, dude, I kind of am too. Like, I'm kind of like not... I will say, I like that it does seem to be a little bit more about the people. Oh, and we're doing, I think we're doing, is Last of Us this weekend? Yeah, I think Last of Us Edition's this weekend too. So, ooh, that's like a little preview of what's to come on Sunday. I've got to edit it. I got to edit the gag reel tonight, actually. So, got to get on top of that. I'm not a fan of zombie stuff, but you watch the game. It's okay. Yeah. It's, Whoa, Conan the Barbarian's here? You must crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and hear the lamentations of their women. Oh my God, it's Conan the Barbarian. Thanks for visiting us, Conan. Man, this is so bizarre. We started this podcast talking about druid barbarians, and there you are. Although, not much of a druid. Yeah? You think HBO is limiting what The Last of Us can do? HBO limiting. It makes me wonder if they're going to really, are they going to do the time skip for the second season? Are they going to continue with this one? And then, I don't know. How many more of these do they plan on making? Populating a map with undead cranberries stuck in my head. Oh, yeah, dude. Cranberries been stuck in my head this week, too. I think the simulation's breaking down, y'all. A self-mocking D&D edition, D&D edition. We actually have made a Dungeons & Dragons D&D edition. But, that said, I have been given some major consideration to, and probably will be doing, a meta edition, wherein we each play each other. So, we each, or rather each of them, the players assume a role of the other. I don't know how it's going to work and who's going to do who, but I think I'm going to do it where Sarah and Lance, I think I'm going to do it where Waylon is Sarah and Lance is Waylon and Sarah is Lance. I don't know. We'll figure it out, but I think it'll be funny. So thanks everybody for joining us. Remember to send all of your questions to bardadvice@gmail.com. Let me put the little thing up there. Go check out my, if you missed it earlier, go check out my new song, NOGL. It's available everywhere you listen to music. If not right now, soon. It was scheduled and dropped today, so it's available on YouTube for sure. And I've put a link for that video in the description, the lyric video. Thanks, everybody, for joining. I'm going to keep everybody as up-to-date and abreast as I can to what's going on with our content, the news show that I'm still kind of working out. And, yeah, that's it. It's a good one. Thanks for hanging out, everybody. Hope you have a good evening. River, Robert, Cat Jazz, Bean, Moto. Goodbye, everyone. It's like the end of the Waltons. Good night, everybody. I'll be here next week. Same Bard time, same Bard channel. 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Man Short YouTube channel. The audio for this podcast will be available tomorrow at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. I'll see you guys next week. Have a good one.